Thank you to all the panelists and for your honest and thoughtful answers. We really appreciate your time and openness in this important conversation. Now, equally quicky and catchy, we just doing our second Q&A session. Joining us here, I hope I can find still him. There he goes, Derrick. Perfect. Please have a seat. Derrick Jensen will be on the panel here. Just have a seat here. Raphaël Stevens, please, next to him. And save the best for last, Ginie Servant-Miklos, next to Raphaël, please. And I'm the one who's blessed with moderating this one. Yeah? Okay. Thank you very much in advance for the question. And once again, thank you for being active and, well, brave enough, like facing this topic and stick around for a whole day. That's already something, so we won't be too long. Let's just pick some. Let's start, okay, ladies first, all right, if you don't mind. How would you start organizing climate communities in countries like Hungary? You know, Hungary pessimism, where at the moment level of awareness is not very high, isn't it?
Is that a trick question? I don't think that the problem is the lack of awareness, because that can be fixed. The problem, and I don't know if I'm going to say this, I'm going to get kicked out of the country. The problem is lack of freedom. If you exist in a political system in which speech is controlled, and we see this happening in the USA, for instance, it becomes very difficult to organize around basic truths or to be able to speak like the kind of, I am not going to the USA right now. Let's be very clear. I would be in danger. I would probably get arrested and deported on the border just for daring to speak from a woman's perspective that would be classified as dangerous diversity and inclusion. And so until we are able to challenge, it's a conversation that I was trying to have with the men, particularly in the room, what is driving this attack on the capacity to talk about these topics is a challenge to identity, and particularly male identity. And that's what drives a vote for the kinds of people that prevent these kinds of initiatives from being able to flourish. And so there are several women who came to see me after my talk just now saying, what do we do about our sons? What do we do about the men in our communities? And that's a question actually I'd like to ask Derrick, because you weren't with Raphaël and me yesterday when I asked the question. I'd like to hear from you also, because you've seen this happen in the US. So what can we do to talk to especially young men to not get into a state where this is no longer possible to organize these communities?
The situation, this is on.
Push it.
The situation in the United States is a bit more complicated than I think a lot of people perceive it, because the assault on free speech has not come merely from the right, but equally or more so from the left. I've been, my career has been devastated, not because I talk about taking out dams or not because I speak against corporations, but it's been devastated because I stand in solidarity with women, and the left can't stand that. Andrea Dworkin had this great line about how right-wing males perceive women as private property, and left-wing males perceive women as public property, and both of them are pernicious and woman-hating. And so that's the first part. And also, I think for me, it feels like a loss of free discussion, whether from the right or from the left, is an almost inevitable result of decline of empire. And I think we're going to see more and more of this as peak oil and as the collapse continues. But what was your question about women specifically? What should one say? I think what one says to young men is that we need to make our loyalty to women absolute. And this is going in a very difficult direction, perhaps, but last night you asked about, oh, sorry, I'll stop.
Closer, just closer. No.
Okay.
Just into the mic. Thanks.
Last night you you talked about situations of domestic violence and, well, men beating on women, let's just not be euphemistic, men beating on women and what men should do about that. And I have a dear friend whose husband's sister was being beaten and their children being raped by, or being assaulted by her husband. And he has a big family, and two of his brothers beat the crap out of the guy and said, "You're leaving town." And he did. And that's a nice little story with a happy ending, but Lierre Keith talks often about how the fundamentals, the way what bison do when they're threatened is they make a circle where the mothers and babies are at the center, and outside of them are the weaned calves who are the next most threatened, and beyond that is the mothers, the cows who have no children, and then beyond that, facing outward, are the bulls. And the solution, or one of the solutions to male violence against women, which we all know increases as civic society collapses, is for the women's men have bigger brow ridges for a reason, that we all need to recognize that the most important people in society in any social circumstance are the women, because they carry forward life. And if you have 100 men and 100 women in a village and 49 of the men die, your village isn't dead. If 49 of the women die, your village is done. And one last thing, I have a dear friend who, she asks every man she sees, what will it take for men to stop beating on women? She's relentless. Do not ever get like on a subway with this woman. And her answer is, women can't do it by themselves. It takes other men through whatever social means, like, I'm not gonna play basketball with you because you called your girlfriend a bitch. Whatever social means of pressure to stop men from beating on women is what other men need to do. Anything from not gonna play basketball with you to you beat my sister, you're out of town. Not a very sophisticated answer, but.
So, is this on? Yeah. In the community building processes that I've been involved when I've been building women's communities in Zimbabwe, one of the reasons that we were more successful in building a community in Zimbabwe than we were in India is because we were able to build a very strong relationship with some of the men in the community. And so, for instance, we Sensei Gerald, sensei is the Japanese term for a karate teacher. Sensei Gerald has been with us for 10 years. And Sensei Gerald is a role model in that women, young girls in the family, are very often neglected in Shona communities. So if there's poverty, then the boy will go to school and not the girls. And Gerald sent all his daughters to school. And they were A and B, like straight A and B students, which was quite unusual for the type of girls that we work with. And I do think that having that like strong male figure, of course, you know, sometimes I have to tell him like, Gerald, you know, like basic things like discussing women's reproductive health are a bit beyond his capacity at the moment. But having a strong male figure that is protective, that can also call out the behavior of certain of the other male in the room, like that role model figure is so essential. And to be honest, that is also what I see in the communities that we try to build in Rotterdam South. So in Rotterdam South, there's the children we work with, a lot of them are from refugee backgrounds, from first, second generation migrant backgrounds, working class backgrounds, and some of the male behaviors, 9, 10-year-old kids in those classes, like they're literally climbing up the walls. There's a lot of violence, there's a lot of, you know, like false machismo, because they're 9 years old, but a lot of like false machismo of you're threatening me kind of behavior. And I see how they relate to the mentors in that group who are able to talk to them. And I think I don't hear too often the relationship between like collapse of society and the increase in male violence and threat to women, but I think we all need to talk about this a lot more. People, when I talk about collapse, think I'm talking about like, oh, we're all going to die in day after tomorrow flood type situations. And we're way more likely to collapse as violence against women increases and men start to kill each other in gangs and that kind of thing. And that's what I think we can work towards preventing. It's a very far away from the question you asked initially, but I think it all comes back to if you want to build communities, you have to create the conditions for communities to be able to be built.
Okay. Well, I hope they take it as a long-written recipe and then do it. Raphaël, besides being not a collapsologist, the collapsologist, one of the collapsologists, you're a father as well yourself. So could you tell us how you think is the best to explain the collapse to the next generations? Because they say it must be hard to have so much to lose materially, these transitional generations, today's children and maybe our grandchildren. So do you think, no, the question is really how you deal with that. How would you explain, for example, your own child or around that age or other children, what they're actually facing might face in the near future?
Interesting question. I would say that it depends on the age of each children. Mine is only 10 now, and he didn't ask any question for now. Even if he's knowing that I invented this word collapsology, but he's not relating directly. So I would say that we need just to wait for questions, and then when questions emerge, try to answer with your own truth. Be polite, not aggressive, and be, you know, like a father, like a mother would answer any question to his son or children. So yeah, be just yourself. Tell what you know about the situation without maybe not too much, but not too less as well. So you have to find a balance and just answer the question with your heart, and that's what I think the children expecting from us. That's all, I think. And depending on the age as well. I mean, for a young adult, it's not the same as for a child as 12 or as 6 years old. If you'd ask questions for climate change, yes, the climate is changing now. Yes, it's going to be warmer in the future. Yes, we're going to have some droughts. Yes, we're going to have some floods. But beyond that, I don't think we need to deep dive into it. So just let the question flowing and be yourself, really.
Thank you. There's another question to you, which I'm really interested in myself as well. So how was your life and the founding co-founder, Pablo Servine's life, changed in the last 10 years? What did you went through in the process of digesting the possibilities of upcoming changes, and what were your reflections when communicating it to people on a probably mass level?
Yes, the last 10 years, it was wild. Really, we didn't expect anything. We just wrote this book for us. We had, this movement of trying to understand the problems, and we wanted to write it for us. One day, an editor came to us and asked us to write a book. So we didn't present any synopsis or some manuscript. He just came and asked us to write. So we said, yes, okay, we're gonna write it if you want. And so it started like this, really, maybe some chances or hazards, or I don't know, something that came to us like this. And after that, maybe 1, 2, or 3 years after writing the book, it was really well received by the general public. We had some nice papers talking about it. The first one, it's just an anecdote, but the first one was an economic journal that related to our books. So it was unexpected, and so the 2 or 3 years just after the book was published was really nice, and then after that came the critics. And critics from everywhere, from our friends, from the journalists, from society. So that was really harsh, because they don't play a fair game. I believe they played. Maybe they misunderstood what we were trying to convey. Maybe they tried to turn our thinking into something that fits their narrative, their own narratives, and they change a bit and then a lot of critics came, but we have a strategy: never answer the critics. So the critics, we answer, but in a not direct way. We answer it through our book, or written, but not straight answering the critics like this. So it was tough to hear that, because when you write and you see what other people write, and you see that it's not what they critique something that we didn't say, or they say something that we didn't, or they misinterpret things. That's always difficult to get along with. And I would say so that was difficult, and now it's a bit more calm, because we try to be less present in the media. We refuse a lot of interviews. We like to come and speak to students in universities, or here in forums or conference, but we try to avoid the big medias, because they always distort. I think what we say. I believe you know what I'm talking about. And even if our friends, I mean our own, the ecologists came to us and tried to tweak our things, and that was surprising to us. So we have some enemies, some friends. We try to continue our way without thinking too much to the critics, and that's our way to do.
Well, thank you very much, and now just a personal question came to my mind, but I'll leave it as for last for all of you. Here's another question to you, Ginie, and I guess that person must be a absolute black belt professional collapse over a person, because starts, you said yesterday, so the person was there as well probably when we introduced their books. You said yesterday that you had 2-year depression and then you started to learn how to grow and make food. What other steps were that helped you out of depression and let you back to enjoy daily life? Don't forget the most interesting part.
Oh dear. So yeah, I talk about this. The last chapter of my book is on. I wasn't actually planning to write the last chapter of my book. Initially, there were only 5 chapters, but every time I went to a conference, somebody asked me, how do you deal with this? How do you sleep at night? Like, what's your secret? So I decided to write the last chapter of my book on the things that helped me find a meaningful life, despite knowing what was coming for us. And I called the chapter, I think, Living, Loving, Learning in Times of Collapse. And the main things, it's like hard to summarize this in like 2 minutes, but the main things that I did is, first, I took better care of my body. So I was actually not vegetarian before that. I stopped eating meat. I reconciled with growing things in the soil. I kept going with my karate practice, but complemented it with things that were more gentle for my body. You know, I'm like nearly 40, so and with fibromyalgia, so it's not a great combination. So the first thing was to re-inhabit my body. The second thing was re-inhabit my mind, and I did that by using magic mushrooms. So I actually was so overwhelmed by how magic mushrooms helped me to process my eco-anxiety, to reconcile me with my own mortality, to help answer existential questions, that I launched a research project. So I have 2 students writing their thesis with me on eco-anxiety and psychedelics. I trained as a psychedelics facilitator in the meantime, and my next book will cover psychedelics as part of the drugs part of the book. It's not a solution for everyone, but I see in the Netherlands, where I live, where you can just buy magic mushrooms in the high street, that there are increasing communities of people who are using psychedelics to process their existential fear. But it has to be done with the right set and setting. That's super important in psychedelics, because you could also turn into Elon Musk with psychedelics. But the guy's addicted to ketamine, and like that's not yielding good results. The other thing that I did, and I don't have time to talk about it now, but is to embrace more sexuality as part of a community revolution, and to, well, I am married to my husband, but like to explore how we can use our bodies and queerness and love as a way to connect people. I don't think that the monogamous nuclear family will survive collapse. So I strongly advocate, like Simone de Beauvoir, my hero, I strongly advocate against monogamous nuclear family as the basis unit of family. And now I'm really getting kicked out of Hungary. And the ultimate biggest step was the concept of imperfect solidarity in action, and really committing myself to building these communities through my foundation, through just giving all my work, just quitting all the bullshit, basically. Quit the bullshit science career. There's no professors on a dead planet. So I quit my academic career. I gave all my time, and you know what? I went to the university and said, I quit. And they said, wait, we can pay you to do the thing you like, and you can keep doing it, and then we still pay you. And I was like, all right, then I'll stay at the university. But the moment that they tell me too much funding because you can't do your impact work with us anymore, I'm out of there. And that's like cutting the bullshit, I think, is the #1 thing you can do for yourself right now. Go look at where you work and tell yourself, is this a resilient profession? Does this fulfill me and fill my life with meaning? If not, leave. Because whatever, I know you think, oh, money, mortgage, all of that, but none of that will survive collapse anyways. So now is the collapse confronts us with the things that really matter, right? Yeah, and if you want to know more about sex, drugs, rock and roll, that's my next book, so.
I will translate that. Let me know when it's ready. Well, thank you. I think it was catchy. This one is to Derrick, to an ever rebel. Is there a radical organization or movement that you are involved with, which someone is interested in your work could maybe join?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I was a co-founder of a group called Deep Green Resistance, and one of the ways it's perhaps fundamentally different than a lot of others is that it provides an analysis that at the center of the analysis is the understanding that we will never have a mass movement of people who care more about the planet than this society. And second, I guess all of my work could be summed up by this way of living won't last, and when it's over, I would prefer there's more wild nature left rather than less. And so if you don't have a mass movement that can aim toward those goals, what does that mean for your strategy and your tactics? And we explicitly talk about that. And, I mentioned earlier today the thing about if space aliens came down, and talk about getting kicked out of a country. That's not really a metaphor. It's a metaphor in terms of space aliens. But there is a war that's been going on against wild nature for 6,000 to 10,000 years. And if you fully internalize that this is a war, and you fully want to win that war, then what do you do? And the way wars are generally won is by destroying the enemy's capacity to wage war. And so what Deep Green Resistance does is we work with all sorts of organizations that are specifically trying to protect prairie dogs or buffalo or whatever, but at the same time we provide this larger analysis that we're not trying to make civilization go on longer. What we'd really like, I love this image I got from a demolition expert who works in cities. He said, when you collapse a building, what you try to do is you try to collapse it in place so that it takes out as little as possible of the surrounding area. And we attempt to spark that conversation about there are other people, and it's very important for people to talk about how humans can go through the collapse emotionally, how they can go through the collapse psychologically. It's very important to talk about how communities can survive collapse. It's like during the whole COVID thing, it really came clear, as it always does, how stupid it is to import. There are chicken farmers in the Midwestern United States who export the dead chickens to China to be chopped into pieces and then sent back to the United States to be sold. That's insane. And it's insane on the level of energy usage. It's also insane, like, my neighbors have chickens in their backyard. It's like, eat those. It's as well, yes, that it's important. All of this stuff, local resilience, how do you create or remember local food systems? Or you were talking last night about working with your hands. All that stuff's really important. And then we just focus on a different area, which is after the collapse, what people who live here are going to care about is whether they can pull fish from the river and eat them. And I became an environmentalist, like I said yesterday, when I was a kid, and one of the reasons I became an environmentalist is because I'm fundamentally conservative. And what I mean by that is that I think it's I love salmon for their own sake, but I think it's a really stupid idea to wipe out a species that you might need to eat tomorrow. I think it's a really stupid idea to do open air experiments where you put a credit card worth of plastic into everybody's brain. It's just stupid. And I just read 2 days ago that there are now plastics have been discovered in the follicular fluid in women's ovaries. I think that's a really stupid idea to put them there. And so everything is based on, I just don't want to foreclose future possibilities of, I mean, if civilization would have come down 300 years ago, whatever that means, people here could still eat a lot more sturgeon than they can now. And I think it's bad to foreclose possibilities like that.
Thank you. I'm not sure whoever wanted to join wherever you are can do it, but it was a valuable answer. So now as a closing session, what I'm asking is more kind of a personal guidance from each of you. So I tell the story, then the question, and then I just kindly ask you from Derrick onwards if you could give a short answer to me as a kind of closing guidance. At least online, we invited a couple of weeks ago a Canadian guy called Paul Czefurka. He's famous that he actually created the theory of ladder or level of awareness. Those 5 stages of awareness, from the sweet illusions you become technically collapse aware. Obviously, I was not dreaming that to have him here. I'm happy that at least we have someone from overseas, but at least to join in online. And we received a reply which was so short that I didn't even have to open the screen of my phone. I could read the email. I'm tired of it. I quit and given up. And when I forwarded it to my colleague and said, that's tough, he got back to me, it is, and it's worth thinking about it. And the reason being is because I feel it on me, and then now, as we discussed, there are 3 of us who actually manage this whole flea circus, and on separate paths, but we came to the same moment that we feel very exhausted of the last 5 years, which is fighting windmills. We put lots of energy, time. Personally, I put everything what I had in the last 5 years into this, which, okay, now I can say it makes sense because you're so beautiful, but and so many. But as someone called me an illusion fighter, fighting against illusion buster, fighting against illusions, I don't have that illusion that we might get to a point where we can make any significant change. But the reason why we started to do this, and the reason why we are still doing it, because we don't see the point of doing anything else. Once you peep into deep enough into Pandora's box, there's no way back. It's a one-way street. And we look at our life, and even your life, through these lenses, and just we don't see the point of doing anything else. So, long story short, when any of us, all of us, are at the point where we are about to become Paul Czefurka and say, it's enough. It's time to take care of ourselves, because no one will take care of us when the time will come. Then what would you say to us? What would you tell me? Into the microphone.
I'm going to swear. There's a saying in the British Army that almost everything gets done by PLFs, and that's persistent little fuckers. And no matter how, I mean, some of us are just PLFs, and so long as there are still 2 trees standing, and so long as there are still 2 wolves in the wild, I'm not quitting. And also, I love what I do, and I'm having a great time, and it's wonderful to have friends that you can talk about with this, and you don't have to revisit Civilization's Unsustainable 101 every time you open your mouth. So having a surrounding group, a group of people that you can cry with, or you can plan with, you can scheme with, is incredibly important and life-saving. And also to find books, I mean, like yours, just, it's so great to pick up a book like that and go, oh my God, I'm not crazy. Or maybe if I'm crazy, there's two of us. And one last thing is there's this, I know this is a cliche, but there's this Irish line that I just love, which is this a private fight or can anybody enter? And it's like, it's fun. It's real. I'm having a wonderful time fighting for what is right.
Thank you.
Balázs, I would say to you, take a rest and then come back when you get your energy back. What we need, in fact, is some places where people like us can rest a bit, like have a little retreat, and then gain new energy to fight back again. But we don't have to leave it all and going back to our old life or the modernity that is destroying everything. So we need just some place, some community, some groups, as you said, that's supporting us. Take a rest, bring back your energy, and go fighting again.
Thank you very much.
Sounds like someone... Sounds like some people are hankering for magic mushroom eco-anxiety retreats. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm okay with you. I know. We will talk about it later.
Those do exist in Holland, by the way. No, so I completely resonate with what you were saying, Derrick. Last year, I went through a very, very difficult period. I experienced psychosis, and it took me a very long time to recover from that. But it really kept me going to go back to the climate school. And every time I came into that climate school, just the joy of being with those young people, of building something together, of forming bonds, that to see the university students who had never crossed the south of the river forming friendships with the kids from the south who'd never gone to the north of the river, just seeing like we made that possible. It was a kind of magic. And the climate school is running right now, actually. I can't wait to get back to Rotterdam on Tuesday. I'll be with the kids in the class. And that, just the sheer joy of those moments. I said yesterday that 3 weeks ago, or is almost a month ago now, after 10 years of working in India, the team leader for our Indian school was arrested and deported from the country. So I was only half joking when I said, how long before I get kicked out of Hungary? But we had to close down all our Indian operations after 10 years of working with these girls that we've known since they were 7 years old. And we had to say goodbye forever, or rather, I had to say goodbye on behalf of all of my team who will never be able to travel to India again. So I had the task of grieving for everybody with 20 girls who were crying their eyes out because they know it's the end. And we had to be honest enough to actually confront that and say, this is the last time you see me, this is the last time you see us. And I had to reflect on what is left if we try, if we do that, and there's nothing left, like if collapse takes it all away. And the only answer I have to that is, were the moments that we spent together meaningful? Did we experience joy? Did we make life better for each other? Because ultimately, I hate to break this to you, but every one of you is going to die. And you don't get to take those things with you into the next life, at least that's not what I believe. So that means all that matters is, well, to quote your Tolkien-esque, I recognize you, I hear you, Tolkien fan. All we have to decide is what we do with the time that we do have here. And it's really not that long. It's really not that long. And as collapse accelerates, it only takes away your illusions of immortality. All it does is remind you that human life is very short, and all you can do is fill it up with meaning, with joy, with connection, such that if you die tomorrow, if we all fall to collapse tomorrow, at least we had the best ride we could, and we brought others along with us. We lifted up others along with us on that ride.
Well, thank you very much for the encouragement, and just as it yesterday, sorry, I like it so much. I have to say again, one of my favorite quotes from Ginie's book, if I can quote it right, but anyway, you will get it. The church gave us a vague promise that all our sins will be forgiven. Collapse will guarantee us that all our actions will be forgotten. So whatever you do, just do it. Don't harm others. Don't harm yourself. Don't harm life. And the rest will be fine. Thank you very much for your attention.